It wasn't the silence that finally broke Eleanor. It was the way the silence smelled. Dust and old photographs certainly, but mostly it smelled of unopened possibility. The kind of silence that tells you, definitively, that nobody is coming home today, or tomorrow, or perhaps ever again. The official records had marked her 70 years with a tidy line of accomplishments. A 40-year marriage, 3 successful children, a comfortable retirement. But at 70, Eleanor Vance knew the true measure of her life wasn't found in dates or achievements, but in the echoes of the grand, empty house she still inhabited. It was a beautiful house, the kind with deep eaves and a porch swing, built in a neighborhood where children still played street hockey until dusk. It was also, she realized, a monument to a crowd that no longer existed. Every morning, the ritual was the same. Eleanor would wake up to the chirping of birds, not the hurried footsteps of a teenager late for the bus, and descend the grand oak staircase. Her hand, now speckled with age spots, still instinctively sought the groove worn smooth by 40 years of family traffic. In the kitchen, she made coffee. A single cup. She remembered the years when she made coffee by the gallon. Mark, the eldest, needing a jolt before his college physics exam. Sarah stirring in precisely 3 teaspoons of sugar before rushing off to her first job interview. And David, the youngest, who swore by decaf even at 10 a.m., just to be contrary. Now the silence was absolute. It wasn't just the lack of noise, it was the absence of potential noise. No doorbell, no distant phone ringing with their familiar ringtones, no frantic search for lost keys. Just the humming of the refrigerator, a quiet metallic reminder of self-sufficiency. Eleanor hadn't realized how slowly, how politely, the cord had been severed. It hadn't happened in a flash of anger or a tragic event. It had been a slow, insidious fade, wrapped in the glossy paper of modern life. Mark, her practical, steady engineer, had moved to Seattle a decade ago for a tech boom that never quite ended. At first, he called every Sunday. Then it became every 2 weeks. Then a quick text on Sunday morning. Thinking of you, Mom. Crazy busy. Sarah, the driven one, pursued finance to London, trading the suburban comfort of her childhood for the thrilling chaos of a global city. Her visits were rare, meticulously planned affairs involving jet lag and high-powered phone calls taken in the guest room. She'd bring expensive gifts, a scarf from Italy or perfume from Paris, presents that felt more like apologies than tokens of affection. And then there was David, the free spirit, who chased oil money down to Texas. He was the one she worried about the most, but he was also the least present. He would promise to visit, map out the drive, only to call late on the expected arrival day, sheepishly admitting a new contract had just dropped. Next month, Mom. I swear. They hadn't abandoned her in the classical sense. They had simply outgrown her gravitational pull. They were successful, busy, and focused on their own orbits, assuming correctly that the Earth, their mother, would simply keep spinning, quietly, waiting. The true crisis didn't happen on a random Tuesday, but on the 3rd Thursday of November, Thanksgiving. For 40 years, the house had groaned under the weight of this holiday. Extended family, 4 different pies, the scent of roasting sage and the roar of the football game. This year, Eleanor had been planning for a smaller gathering, just the 4 of them. She'd bought the £30 turkey out of habit. Then came the calls. First, Mark. Mum, there's a massive project launch. 0 chance I can get away. I've sent you a food delivery gift card. Get something nice. Then, Sarah, 2 days later. The flight times are a nightmare, and with the time difference, it's just not sensible. We're doing a small charity gala here instead. But I'll video call you while we eat. David's call was the quietest one. My truck broke down, Mom. The weather's terrible and I can't risk the drive. Eleanor stared at the turkey in the freezer. It was enormous, obscene. She pulled it out, placed it on the counter and stared at it for a long minute. Then she picked up her phone, dialed the number for the local homeless shelter and donated the entire thing. That night, she ate a bowl of canned soup, sitting on the dining room floor with a blanket, not because she was sad, but because the polished mahogany table for 12 felt like a judgment. She had set exactly one placemat. The next few months were the hardest. She didn't just feel lonely, she felt redundant. Her purpose, which had been tethered to nurturing and maintaining the family unit, had snapped. She started wandering the house, a ghost in her own history. She found David's chipped ceramic mug still wedged in the back of a cabinet and wept not for the mug, but for the boy who had once filled it with hot chocolate. She went into the attic, where Sarah's meticulously organised high school transcripts sat next to Mark's dusty Eagle Scout badges. Every object was a relic, belonging to a life she was no longer actively part of. One rainy afternoon, she caught her reflection in the dark glass of the living room window. She saw not the bustling matriarch, but a small grey-haired woman holding a feather duster like a sceptre over a kingdom of dust motes. "You're ridiculous, Eleanor Vance," she whispered to her reflection. "You are waiting for applause in an empty theatre." That was the turning point, the moment of radical acceptance. The children weren't coming back, not for good. Their lives were elsewhere, and that was okay. Their successful distant lives were, in a way, her final success. But her life wasn't over just because theirs had begun. Eleanor started small. She cancelled the lawn service, the one she'd kept going because David always enjoyed seeing a perfect lawn when he visited. She bought a pair of sturdy gardening gloves and attacked the overgrown azaleas with the same vigour she used to apply to scrubbing crayon marks off the walls. She joined the local library's book club, choosing one focused on European history, a subject she had always wanted to explore but never had the time for while managing 3 schedules. She didn't just read the books, she took notes, underlined passages, and prepared discussion points. She found herself engaging with people who didn't remember her as Mark's mom or Mrs. Vance from down the street, but simply as Eleanor, the thoughtful, insightful woman with a knack for understanding the complexities of the Napoleonic Wars. She began volunteering at the animal shelter, walking the oldest dogs, the ones who also needed patience and a quiet, steady presence. She discovered a profound, wordless connection with these animals, a deep satisfaction in being needed without being demanded. The house began to change. The dust was still there, but now it shared space with new things. Muddy boots near the back door, library books piled high on the nightstand, and the scent of freshly cut lavender from her newly revitalized garden. She didn't need the grand dining room anymore, so she turned it into a studio, buying an easel and cheap tubes of acrylic paint. Her paintings were terrible, messy splashes of colour, but they were hers. One chilly December evening, the first snow falling softly outside, Eleanor was curled up in her armchair. She wasn't watching the classic Christmas movie she usually watched alone. She was listening to a podcast about astrophysics and knitting a chunky wool scarf for the shelter's adoption drive. Her phone buzzed. It was a group text from her children. Mark. "Saw the snow, thinking of you, Mom. Miss your house." Sarah. "Me too. Send a pic of the garden, please. I need green." David. "Call you tomorrow, promise. Love you." Eleanor smiled. The messages were fleeting but genuine. They were reaching out. She didn't feel the sudden desperate pull to drop everything and call them back. She texted back a simple warm heart emoji, placed the phone face down on the table, and returned to her podcast and her knitting. The house was still quiet, but it was no longer empty. It was filled with her own energy, her own choices, and her own beautiful self-made peace. Eleanor Vance at 70 was still alone, but for the very first time in years, she realised she was no longer lonely. She was simply and wonderfully free.